Welcome back to the Self Trust Solution Podcast. I'm Dawn Lede, and today's episode is one you're going to feel maybe deeply. If you've ever questioned whether you're capable of changing your life, if you've ever wondered whether you could trust yourself after years of doubt, distraction, or even survival mode, you need to hear this conversation. Today, I'm talking with Jesse Ramos, a transformation artist, mindset coach, and someone who rebuilt his life from the inside out. Before coaching, Jesse spent 15 years in retail banking. And on paper, everything looked successful. But internally, he was battling self trust, identity, weight struggles, imposter syndrome, and alcohol abuse, all while trying to hold himself together. And then he made a difficult choice. Jesse lost 90 pounds, left the career that no longer felt aligned, and committed himself to movement, mindset, and a mission to inspire 8 million people to trust themselves again. What he shares in this episode is honest, emotional, and full of powerful reminders about what becomes possible when you stop abandoning yourself and start listening inward. You'll hear Jesse talk about the moment he realized he didn't trust himself, how grief, addiction, and self judgment shaped his early patterns, how he transformed his life through small, consistent, self honoring practices, what radical acceptance and accountability looks like in practice, and how one identity shift can create a ripple effect through every area of your life. This is a story about courage, clarity, becoming something new, and learning to meet yourself with compassion every step of the way. I absolutely loved this conversation and Jesse, and I know you will too. Let's get into it. Welcome, Jesse. We're glad to have you on the podcast today.
Thank you so much for having me, Dawn.
Yes. So, you describe yourself as a transformation artist. But
Yeah.
your story didn't start in the world of fitness and mindset coaching. Can
Oh
you
no.
take us back to where your journey really began and what your life looked like before you started trusting yourself more?
Yeah. So my story began way back when in California. I'm in New York City now. I've been here 4.5 years. I'm 39 years old, but I started my career in retail banking for 15 years. And I originally wanted to become an English teacher, but you know, in the beginning days of my community college, I started working at the bank as a bank teller, and I loved helping people. That's why I discovered that I truly loved helping people improve their financial lives, and that transformed eventually into what I'm doing now. I was also a little overweight, so that's as I started to transform my body is when I started to realize that I had my love of physical and mindset transformation. Yeah, I lost 90 pounds. My heaviest was 255 pounds.
Wow, congratulations.
Yeah.
Yeah. And did you notice a place where you weren't maybe trusting yourself?
Oh, so yeah, several times, especially in my youth. Because when you're so young, you don't really know who you are yet. I am from a really small community in Southern California, Ventura County. There was one high school, and I always struggled with my identity as a gay Latino. So I had to deal with the complexities of self acceptance, really discovering who I am, and then being labeled by the community. It was frightening because I wasn't, like I said, I wasn't sure of who I was. So I had so many other people's perceptions of me uh, sort of dictate my self belief. So I always felt like I wasn't worth much. I was because of the constant negativity that I experienced during my adolescent years. And so that's where the disconnect of not trusting myself stemmed from because I just constantly thought I was a bad person.
Yeah. When we're busy, like when we hear just most of that external chatter, and we're already, when we're growing up, it's awkward. We're figuring out who we are.
Exactly.
And so we have some insecurities. And when that external chatter mirrors and amplifies our insecurities, it makes it really hard to choose trust for ourselves and for others.
And exactly. And that, Don, that's where a lot of the disconnect came. And a lot of people, and I've coached over 300 clients. And I specialize in weight loss, obviously, because I was of a substantial size in the past. But a lot of people don't trust that they can truly change because it stems back from their families and their childhoods. And they still have that mindset as adults that I'm incapable of change. And it's heartbreaking because I used to be there.
Yeah. It is heartbreaking. And do you see, I noticed that it becomes a really disempowering cycle because it's so uncomfortable to recognize that or decide that you have that lack of power. And so, in order to comfort yourselves, often we'll go to food. And then we're repeating this just cycle of eradicating our self trust, not choosing it, and leaning on the one thing that's keeping us from getting where we want to go.
Well, and I'm glad you brought that up because I'm going to share also a little bit more about me. Is I too used to use food and alcohol to suppress the feelings. Food became comfort to me. I would eat to be full. I just wanted to feel that sensation of being full, and I would drink an excessive amount of alcohol to forget. And those two combinations are a recipe for disaster, and they followed me well into my 30s. And that's where I became overweight because also you keep in mind, I didn't have a lot of the knowledge. My mom was a single mom. She was 19 with 3 children. So her and my father divorced. So my mom was working 3 jobs. She didn't have the time or the resources to really give us the tools that we needed to be healthy or make better decisions. Food was sometimes scarce in the household. So I also developed that fear of I need to eat because I don't really know. Well, it wasn't all the time, but there was times when I didn't really know when I was going to eat again, maybe throughout the day or maybe into the following day. So I struggled with alcohol abuse for 20 years. And after I moved to New York City is when I decided um, to change, but it actually got a little worse. I moved here when I was 34, and New York City really, it's a social city. You know, that's what people, the culture here is you go out to have dinners and you go out to have some cocktails and you find yourself getting caught up in that lifestyle. And I was still working at the bank at the time. I was running financial centers here in West Manhattan. And I started gaining a little bit more weight. I had lost the 90 pounds already. It took me that I did that before I moved to New York. During the pandemic, I did gain 40 pounds back because I was navigating. But here, I had already been in the shape that I had been in while doing it as a busy manager. And I realized it wasn't until October of 2023 that my grandma Terry Leva passed away. And she was my rock. She meant everything to me. She was a beautiful, loud, crazy woman who was extremely loving. And after she passed away unexpectedly at 77, I had a dream and she came to me in the dream. And at this point, I was drinking on the streets of New York City by myself. It got really bad. And she came to me in that dream and she told me, you need to get your stuff together, mijo. And mijo is a term of endearment, like a son. And I woke up the next day in a completely different state of mind. And I have not touched one drop of alcohol. It's going to be 2 years next month.
Mm.
And it really changed the trajectory of my life. And that's why I got so excited when I learned of your podcast, because it's all about self-trust. I trusted myself to choose sobriety, and that changed the trajectory of my business entirely. Before I was in it, but I wasn't fully committed. And after I chose the lifestyle that I'm in today, my life has changed. I'm on podcasts. I'm being featured in Forbes, iHeartRadio, Daily Mail, and work with some really cool people. And I've helped over 300 people transform, regardless if they're still with me or not. I've touched the lives of 300 people, and that's just a fraction of my goal and my dream is to inspire 8 million people to trust themselves, because we all have so much potential within us, but it's just trapped because, like me, you allow other people's influences to dictate the trajectory of your life. And it just continues generation to generation. The fear, the internal torment that a lot of people put themselves through. It's heartbreaking, Don.
Yeah. So, I mean, you just mentioned so many massive changes, right? Leaving banking, getting sober, moving across the country, not all in that order, but, and then recognizing through your grandmother's vision, this need to change. So, when you started to draft more self-trust, or maybe this is before trusting yourself. What did it look like, that change, when you felt that shift, that you wanted to make that change and you decided no more alcohol? What decisions or actions did it lead to with your business that you wouldn't have had before?
I'm really more serious. I have after I started losing weight and getting into shape in 2008, and I people noticed. Obviously, it was a substantial amount of weight I lost, and when people would ask me, I would light up and I would get so excited. So I always had the thought of becoming a coach, but I didn't. I was afraid to pull the trigger. So when I moved to New York, I started studying. It took me about 2 years, or a year and a half, actually. It took me a year and a half, and I got certified, and I knew I needed to quit the bank. I knew something deep down said, if I don't, I was so burned out with corporate life. I knew that I couldn't do this anymore. I was so good at it. I was a top producer. I had won various awards. I was a mentor. But it just felt like I just couldn't reach that level of success within the corporation that I needed. And so I knew I needed to leave, but I trusted myself enough to quit without any clients the week after that I got certified. Being sober took about a year later, but during that time, I just wasn't fully committed and I was struggling. I didn't know where to go. I was drinking a lot, and I still hadn't I still hadn't developed that mindset that I could do this. I still didn't think I was capable of leading other people to change. It was really hard for me, so I didn't position myself as a leader yet. I didn't do the work with my marketing. I didn't really spend time learning about the tools and software that can really help your business grow. I didn't want to work at any gym, so I didn't get the experience. I have a lot of friends that are in the, they're very successful in the celebrity glam community. So they do a lot of famous artists, hair and makeup. And I've always looked up to them. We grew up together, and I reached out to one of them and I asked, how do I build? And he told me, you need to go and work at a gym. You need to go. I worked at a salon for a year, blow drying hair, and now he does some really A-list stars. And I said, okay, yeah. So I said, I'm going to give myself 1 year to do this. And during that time, I had been sober already, but I trusted myself to make that choice, even though I didn't want to. After the sobriety, and then during that year when I worked at this really elite gym in New York. It's just a nice gym. You don't need to spend a lot of money on a gym, but I did gain a lot of experience while working there. And I wanted to quit every single day, but I stayed true. And something told me, learn and learn and learn all of this, all of these tools and essentially free knowledge. They're paying me to be here. You know what I mean? And so I stayed with it, and I gained an enormous amount of experience. And I met several people within my industry So that also helped me build what I have built today.
Yeah. We open no opportunities and possibilities by sitting where we are, right? But what I love about what you just said is that it highlights a truth that is often construed, that self-trust means, that you're going to want to be doing everything. And it's not true at all. Self-trust is sometimes doing the things we don't want to do because we trust that we can get what we need out of it. And we trust ourselves to do the hard things, the uncomfortable things, because the truth is, doesn't eradicate doubt and it doesn't eradicate fear, but it's the way we support ourselves through it because it's through those experiences that you do get the doors open, the opportunities come in.
And Don, I'm so glad you said that because you just reminded me of something. I really had to humble myself in this career shift from a, you know, corporate title, assistant vice president, Wow. to being, to going to this gym and being right at an entry level position. I was used to running these workshops and these meetings and speaking to the East Coast division, over 1,000 people on calls, virtual calls, to just being a spectator and listening to this master coach talk to me. And it was so humbling for me but I also developed that imposter syndrome.
Mhm.
Yes, because even though I was certified, I felt like I didn't know diddly squat. And I was in this room with other coaches and I thought, oh my God, what am I doing? I don't know anything here. And that mindset seeped into my soul because I felt like I had nothing to offer.
Yeah.
And, I had to humble myself and just tell myself every day in the mirror, this is good for you. You're learning. Give yourself some compassion, give yourself some love. This is a part of what you're doing. You can't, so much of me wanted to go back to the bank because I wanted to go back into my comfort zone. But again, I trust myself. There's like 1 ounce of trust I had every single day. There was only one, and man, I'm 5'11", 170 pounds. So it's one speck, 1 ounce of trust that I held on to because everything else in me said, go back, go back, go
But
back here.
the difference between that is, I think your self trust is higher than you're giving yourself credit for in that moment. Maybe your belief was wavering. And that's important distinction because we can get that confused. Just because you're not sure it's going to work out doesn't mean that you're not trusting yourself. It means like, here's the thing that I've never done before. And of course, there's some uncertainty there, right?
Absolutely.
But the trust is that you did it anyway because you were willing to give that small amount of belief an opportunity to blossom.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And so many times I've had to really listen to the person inside of my head. And it took 20 years to develop that. Because again, we take it back to my childhood and we take it back to everybody else's opinions about me to formulate in my reality. So I had to really reconstruct my brain. I think they call it neuroplasticity. When you reprogram your brain, you have to
Yeah.
do that. You have to have that resilient mindset to know that you can achieve greatness because you were born for greatness. Every single person has an opportunity to be a better version of themselves. But a lot of people nowadays want things now. They want things yesterday. I want to lose 50 pounds in a month. It doesn't work like that.
Yeah.
I want my business to make $1 million in 2 years. It doesn't, unless you're extremely lucky or you have a really good product, then, especially someone like me who's in health and wellness, it takes time. And I had to learn that. And
Well, and we want the truth is we want it to take time. I know everyone's gonna say, "What? No, I really do want to make, $2 million in a month and I want to make, lose 50 pounds in a week." But how we get there is how we're gonna stay there. It's how we're gonna maintain. And if you are having to hustle or starve yourself to get to the point you want to be to maintain it, it's going to be harder work. But when you do the harder work and let it take longer, it doesn't even have to be that much longer. when you build it on trust fueled decisions and follow through and evaluation and celebration, then what you're maintaining or growing and building, oh, it's so much better.
It's a labor of love, and I'm so proud of my business, Don, because I built it from scratch, and you just and I've had to really radically accept that things take time. And now, 3 years later, I'm seeing why it's been taking so long. Because now I get to spend time with you. Now I get to have other publications that want to talk to me and hear about it and hear about the struggles because it just makes. I always think of like lottery winners. You know, what would you do with all that money so quick? Like, where's the story? Where's this blood, sweat, and countless tears that you have put into earning it? And I do everything now with precision and care. And one of my, you said something right now, but about taking your time. But one of my really good friends, Etienne Ortega, is a very successful makeup artist, told me how you do anything is how you do everything. And I will never forget when he told me that because it makes total sense. How you do anything is how you do everything. And that can be something as small as making your bed every morning. You know, having a routine. I recently did a purge of my house. Like I said, I live in New York. I have a studio, and it gets it gets. I always keep the surface clean, but I knew that my closets were packed. I knew that my cabinets were a little unorganized, and I thought back to that saying, and I thought, you know what? I need to take the time to really clear out that space because I feel like it's also a reflection of things I miss, the small things that I still may be holding inside of me. So I spent 3 days just going through everything. I gave away all my work suits from the bank. And I felt like that was a symbol for, I had about 15 work suits and I donated all of them. And I said, and the old clothes, the things that I just didn't need anymore that don't reflect who I've become today are all gone. And I feel like a weight is lifted off of me. I was crying. I was crying the whole time. I'm like, what I felt, but it feels nice to hear. It felt really beautiful. And I'm happy I did it.
Yeah. What if you like looking, what would you tell your before self? The one who was still trying to like frantically figure out whether you should go back to banking or keep moving forward, or the one that was trying to prove worth or waiting for permission to start. What would you tell that version of you now?
Yeah, that's an emotional question because sometimes, you know, I'm very high energy. If you can't tell, if you haven't noticed, so I'm always on the go. And you know, it's been 4.5 years since I've been here in New York, and I've always carried this energy since I was a small child. I've always wanted to make moves, especially when I became competitive. I realized I was competitive when my mom took me to I was about 8 years old and she took me to a go-kart racing contest at the local Kmart in the small town that I'm from. And I won. And I never forget the feeling of winning. I was like, oh my God, it's so nice, you know? And then when I became a banker, there was so much competition, you know, and there was 8 other, you know, I've been in banking since we used to have 20, sometimes 20 associates in the financial centers. Now you go into a bank and there's about 2 or 3 people, 4 people, 5 people. So I had to really carve my own lane and become very, I learned that I was competitive from a younger age. So I think that the time that's gone by from when I've been here has been just on the go and just so much anxiety because I always had this. In the beginning, I was motivated by fear after I left the bank. I was just, my mind created this illusion that you're going to be on the streets, you're going to be home. You left everything in California. You came right here by yourself. You're going to be, you're going to fail. And so I was motivated by fear. Now that I'm looking back 4.5 years later and everything that I've accomplished, not only financially, but physically, mentally and spiritually, and the position that I'm in, sometimes I think, oh my God, I can't believe I did all this. Like, I can't believe it. So I would tell myself, I would tell the anxious banker, you need to relax. Like, it's no, because things are going to be okay. Things are going to turn out better than you expected. Just take it one day at a time and focus on the things that you can control, because there's going to be a lot of curveballs that are going to be beyond your control, like your grandma's death. That was devastating. But you have to radically accept that things are what they are, and you got to keep yourself together. And I think that being alone here in New York without my family has played a big role in that, because I've had to really keep myself together in times of uncertainty. There was a period, to be honest with you, Don, and I didn't pay my rent for 2 months because I couldn't afford it. I didn't have the client base. My priorities were mixed up. My priorities were all about the alcohol and the going out and not taking the few clients that I had serious. And until that major life event happened and that devastating loss is when I really took myself serious. And then another layer was when I started to pour myself into my clients. The love that I had left in me after she died, I just poured into my clients, because I realized that even though I was in a dark place, they still looked up to me for help. They still trusted me. And so that gave me the confidence to pour into them. And then when I would see them transform, and they would show you not only visibly, but internally, the mindset that they had, the pictures of the foods they were eating. Jesse, I walked a whole mile and I was not winded. Oh my God, Jesse, I was able to grab my granddaughter and it felt so good this time. There was no pain. Like, that was just, it's a beautiful feeling when you could watch people transform. And that helped me believe in myself, because I realized, oh my God, I helped them they did the work. I just helped facilitate it and bring it out of them. And that's so rewarding to me personally.
You know, what practices or mindset help you stay connected to that confidence and self trust when things get uncertain or uncomfortable today?
Is you have to have that self-determination that you will succeed. Your brain wants to automatically create that fear bubble, especially fear of the unknown, fear of change, fear of uncertainty, fear of lack of self-belief. But, I'm a very passionate man. So I say things with a lot of passion, but even just, a simple note to yourself, like, I can do this. I can do this. I can. Changing your vocabulary. In the beginning, when I take on new clients, I hear a lot of I can't do this. I can't do this. That's the number one rule. You have to tell yourself, I can and I will. Whatever that looks like for you. Something as simple as, I can learn more about what I'm trying to start my journey with, whatever that is. You want to sell real estate. I can read a magazine on real estate. Bringing it into your mind,
Yeah.
getting familiar with the unfamiliar. I can, if you're in health and wellness, I can read or listen to a podcast around fitness, or I can call this person to get more information on this particular subject.
What are your personal practices when things are uncertain or uncomfortable?
I look myself in the mirror and I speak to myself, and I speak as if I'm already at that stage where I still want to be. I speak to myself as if I'm up here, just like that moment on the beach in Ventura, California, where I was living, when I was speaking to myself and saying, I need to move to New York. That you need to move to New York. And I was talking to myself as a mentor, as a guy. I need to move, and that's how I speak to myself daily, especially when I'm uncertain. When before this podcast, I'm talking to myself. I'm walking around my apartment and I'm speaking, and I'm preparing because this way, when you speak to yourself, you're the only person that's going to give yourself the best advice. You are the only person that is really going to steer you in the right direction.
Mm. Yeah.
You know, you can't you so that's one of the things is I talk to myself a lot. The second is I write. I write stuff down. I do a lot of writing, or I'll use my notes on my phone and I'll use the voice notes
Mhm.
because it will help me record the information. If I have an idea or if I have something I need to remember, I'll record it and then I'll email it to myself with like high priority. Make sure that you follow up with this. And then I also, I take really good care of myself physically. I do exercise, quite a bit. I'm a lector at the church down the street. I grew up Catholic. I wouldn't say I'm super religious because I'm not. I live a healthy lifestyle. I live a positive lifestyle. My mission is to lead, motivate, and inspire people. That comes from the heart. It's a God-given talent. So, I do go to church every other Sunday and I read to the congregation the scriptures that are there. And that helps me personally because I feel like something comes over me. And a lot of these people go to the church for spiritual guidance. So I didn't author the scripture, but I prepare for it and I read it with emotion so people can feel it. And then I also pour into my clients. That helps me because when I pour into them and I teach them every client session that I have with them, I try to teach them something because you can sell time, but you need to sell knowledge. You need to give people something that they could take away. And I think that's why I've had my strong book of business with my clients that have been with me for about a year and a half now.
Yeah. You know, I smiled so much as you shared all of your practices. It could be as if you read my book, Master Your Inner Dialogue. And
I'm going to read it. I love it. You have a book, by the way.
I
That's
have two
like
books,
two
but
books. What? Man.
but
Yes.
what's so beautiful in the way that that first book, Master Your Inner Dialogue, was written one based on my own experience and the accounts of over 6,000 coaching sessions. And so it shows
That's
that there
amazing.
are people who do know how to have that internal dialogue that is and treat it as a mentor and a guide instead of um, what many people experiences, which is more of a critic and a judge. And so what a great I love seeing that. I know that I you didn't get my book, so it's not a problem, but I just love that you're an example of someone who would have put it into practice.
Yeah, I will read it. I will order the book. And let's get that on record. I'm going to get Don's book. You to get it too. 6,000 coaching lessons. She knows a thing or two about coaching. Yeah.
It's so beautiful though, like honor inner dialogue. I love how you use it because that is exactly what drew me to write it was it has the opportunity to be our greatest advocate, ally, and supporter. And so I love that you're using it that way. That's super important. It means it it definitely comes out in how you coach your clients. I know it and how you serve them. And speaking of, you have this mission. You kind of alluded to it earlier, but you have a mission to help 8 million people find freedom through movement, mindset, and motivation.
Absolutely. Yes, I do. Yes.
I love it. For someone who's listening right now, and maybe they're on the edge of their own leap, what's one small, powerful step they can take today to start trusting themselves more deeply?
Do something that's uncomfortable. Do something that's uncomfortable, something that you never thought you would be able to do. And it's different for everybody. It could be as simple as speaking to a stranger, looking somebody in the eyes, you know, s- teaching somebody something, posting
Or
that
moving
message.
across the country like you
Or
did.
I'm a dramatic, colorful hey man, so everything I do has a lot. But it can even be posting that message because
Right.
guess what? 8 million people have lived 8 million different lives. We all have something of value to share with the world. And once you find that purpose, when you go inside of yourself and you face yourself in the mirror and you talk to yourself and you will find that intrinsic small voice within yourself, that intuition to really develop what it is your purpose is on this earth, because we all have a purpose. Some people will do the work at a different stage. It took me 30 to basically 37 years. I'm 39. 2 years ago, I started really transforming 37 years to find it. But also, I want people to know that there are different levels of change. There's different stages of change. The pre-contemplation, contemplation, action, maintenance. So identifying when you know more about who you are or what you're experiencing, then it makes sense because then you feel like you're not alone. That's one thing that comforts me also is that I know that I'm not the only person in the world. I know there's millions of other people that are in similar situations or situations that are or worse than mine or situations that are better than mine. So that brings me comfort, Don, knowing that, okay, you know what? I'm not going to fail. I will never allow myself to fail. I love myself so much and I built this from scratch. Yeah, I don't have a college degree. I still feel that I needed one. I am from we didn't have a lot of money growing up. My mom was a very hard worker. She still is. She has two successful businesses. But we didn't have the resources. You know what I mean? I love, like just, just a regular average family.
Mhm.
And so that's what I've built for myself now means so much to me because nobody else did it besides myself. And that's where your dog is cute. That's where I want people to understand that you don't have to be a victim of your circumstances, especially people that grew up in poverty like our family did. You just have this bubble that you can never like I'm looking up at these buildings right now and I feel like I can never climb up there. You know what I mean? Like that's how when you grew up the way people in that community did, your mindset is already low. Your mindset is you can't change. A part of my journey was, with the alcohol and the it did lead me to jail time. I did go to jail twice. There were alcohol related issues. It wasn't a lot of time, but it was enough for me to really open my eyes in that aspect. But again, it was the things that I experienced growing up. That's what I knew. I knew alcohol. I knew drinking. I never got into drugs. But when you're at that point, sometimes you just believe that that's all you're worth. But when you really do the work and pull yourself out, you can rise above. You can move across the country. You can, if you want to work at the bank, you can work at the bank and climb the corporate ladder and be a CEO eventually, or a regional president and make a bunch of money. You know what I mean? Or you can do things that help other people. And that's what I want people to understand is that you do not have to be a victim. You can be a leader and a survivor and somebody to inspire other people to come out because we're all energy at the end of the day. Everything is energy.
Yeah. So, do you work with people? Tell us a little bit. Do you work with people in person or virtually?
I have a small book of business in person that I keep my core clients. I do a lot of virtual coaching as well. So anywhere in the world where you're at, right now it's primarily English. Because I haven't ventured to the other part, to other languages yet. Some Spanish, but I have my core clients here in New York City who I meet with in person. But I also do corporate wellness events. So I have my corporate wellness events. I call it the power of pause. And I just launched that 6 months ago. I have a few clients now with True Refrigeration where I am leading their corporate wellness events for their employees because I want I want these corporations to understand, because I come from the background in banking. High stress is when you can take care of your employees. It helps in all areas. It helps them feel valued, helps them feel safe and comfortable at work, and then want to go to work, and then want to, be a top performer and have the tools and resources to manage stress.
Yeah.
So I do that as well. Online and in-person coaching. That's a
How
really
can
cool part.
people find you?
They can visit my website, www.bbtfitness.nyc. B as in boy, B as in boy, T as in Tom, fitness.nyc. Or they can add me on Instagram, good energy.
No,
A lot of, well, obviously, a lot of people tell me, I love your energy, you have good energy. So I changed my name to Good Energy because I have good energy.
yeah. Well, we'll
My
definitely.
dream is to be the next Richard Simmons meets Tony Robbins.
There you go. Sounds awesome. Well, we'll have those links in the show notes as well. And Jesse, thank you so much for your time today and for
You're
sharing.
amazing. I had so much fun with you. I really appreciate you having me on the show. And thank you so much for giving me this opportunity to share my story and inspire any one person that needs to hear this message.
Yes, because for sure we now know that it's possible to move from situations and circumstances, both like where we live
Yeah,
to how
exactly.
we're confining ourselves.
To the people you're surrounding yourself with.
Yeah.
Let go or be dragged.
Yeah. And become the leader. And you can be your own greatest mentor and ally, as Jesse shared with us. So
Thank you,
we'll look
Dawn.
forward to hearing any comments from you. And we'll see you next time on the Self Trust Solution Podcast.
Thank you so much.